Hello Pipe community, Barepipe here. Welcome to episode 5. Today I'm going to look at different ways to rebuild a vulcanite stem. If you have a hole in it, a gap like this one has, chunk that's been bitten out, or a lot of deterioration. I've tried to do this in the past where I've tried to work in a new piece of vulcanite, not with great success. So I wanted to figure out some better ways to do this. And I've never done any of these techniques before, but I've done some research on the internet. I've gone to Reborn Pipes, to Dad's Pipes, which if you're into pipe restoration, you'll know these websites. They're all websites from guys who are far more experienced than I am and knows a lot more about pipe restoration than I do. And I've picked out 3 different techniques. I want to explore all 3 of them, see which one gives me the best results. So let's get into it. Fixing stems. I've heard of 3 techniques that you can use to fix a stem. And I'm going to try all 3 and see which works the best. So I've got an old stem here. I've made 3 gouges in it. And I'm going to use all 3 techniques to see which one gives us the best result. And what I'm going to use is this. This is black super glue. You can buy it from a company called StuMac, which is short for Stuart McDonald. They're actually a music store who supply materials to luthiers. And for guitars and instruments, they make a black super glue. There you can see it. And I've heard a lot of people use this to do it. I've also heard of people who use the black super glue and they combine it with activated charcoal, which is what I've got here. There's a little hair in there actually. Just pull that out. Or who combine it with powdered vulcanite, which is what I've got there. We're going to see which of these does the job. So I think what I'm going to do first is I'm going to do just an area here where I just build up some super glue. Just let it sit there like that. That's the first way. The second one I'm going to do is I'm just going to put a few drops into this charcoal, which of course is not going to want to mix with it. So I'm going to need a stirring stick to do that. So out comes the toothpicks. The trusty old toothpick method, and it's going to mix in some charcoal with the super glue. Should make kind of a sticky paste. And this one I'm going to put charcoal on like that. The third one is using the vulcanite. So same thing, I'm going to put some super glue in the vulcanite. We're going to mix it up, make a bit of a paste. The vulcanite may be a bit rough because I've just sanded it off with a file. So now that the super glue is dry, I want to show you what happens. You can see over here in the area where I did not use a filler, just the black super glue on its own, that it hasn't filled the area, the little gap that I filed out of the vulcanite. Both the area that I've done with the vulcanite, that one is the one with the vulcanite and the super glue combined. This one is the one with the charcoal and super glue combined. Have worked quite well. It's built up quite effectively. In fact, the vulcanite is got the biggest volume in terms of build up above the surface. So the next step is to file it down and let's see what happens. Okay, so that's the area that I've just done with super glue, which hasn't been able to fill the gap. This is the area that has the charcoal, and I can see, and I don't think you can see it on the camera, I can see this is slightly darker already than the rest of the vulcanite. The vulcanite filling, I can barely tell where it is. There's a little imperfection here, and that's the only basis on which I can tell. There's probably a little air bubble or something that was in the glue. It's the only way I can tell where it was. So what I've decided to do, I should have recorded this when I did it, I ended up dabbing on just a tiny bit more super glue over all of this. And the reason was that there's a couple of imperfections in here, in the area where I did the charcoal and the vulcanite filling, and I wanted to make sure that I just catch those imperfections, just the little air bubbles that I wanted to fill in. And then I just filled in the little gap here where I just did the super glue on its own. Thought, well, might as well run in a little more glue in there. Okay, so the glue is dry, so I'm going to sand it down again. My recommendation, if you have an old vulcanite stem, sand off a little bit of vulcanite, make yourself a little bit of a vulcanite powder, combine that with the black super glue. Second choice, get yourself some powdered charcoal. You can buy them at a pharmacy. Comes in pulls because people use it for stomach ailments. And empty out the capsules, use the dust, and that's another good way of building it up. Before I wrap up, I just wanted to mention one other technique that I've read about recently. Pipe Miner, who is a guy on Instagram that I follow, has recently posted some photographs where he used a similar technique to what I've done with the vulcanite dust and with the charcoal dust, but he used cornstarch. He's about halfway through the restoration right now in terms of what he's posted on Instagram, and it looks pretty good. So that may be a technique that you also want to try. For myself, I think if you have tooth chatter or minor dents and nicks in your pipe, the black super glue on its own is going to be perfect. It blends in beautifully. If you need a bit of body because you need to build up an area in order to fill in a bigger gap, for myself, I like the vulcanite. Because of the fact that it is the same material as the stem, so I think it's also going to weather and age in the same way. It has the same hardness and durability to it. It looks, to me at least, on the surface, at least in terms of sanding it. And I just like the idea of it being the same material that the stem is made out of. So I think as a principle, I've landed on the black super glue as a binder with whatever material the stem is made out of as the filler to give it body. So with that, I'm going to wrap this one up. Once again, I just want to say thank you for watching. I really appreciate it. I appreciate the comments I've been receiving and the support I've received from the YouTube pipe community. So onwards to the next one. Thank you.